everyone, and welcome down to episode number 42. Darren Mullane, rest in peace, of the Down South Photo Show. With me here at the moment, my background doesn't show that I'm in sunny, freezing cold Ocean Grove, but we'll talk about backgrounds in a minute. Yeah. And over that way is Cam Blake in Hobart. Yep. Hello, Cameron.
This is my backyard. This is what it's like. This is what it's like here at the moment.
You've had a dump.
Have you been watching before I got on there? No, yes, we have had a big dump, and there's more dumps coming. It's they're predicting down to sea level on the weekend down here.
No.
Yes, and I won't be there. I'll be somewhere else. But
okay, well, I'll go down there.
Yeah, come down here.
To sea level, seriously, that's cold.
If you look at the weather map of Tassie at the moment, we're recording on the 7th of June, Tuesday, there is just this cold air mass coming straight up from Antarctica. Like usually we get it in from the sort of southwest. Yeah. It is purely coming from like south below us.
It's this time of year when we get reminded. I mean, we call the Down South Photo Show. Do we need another reminder? But we get reminded of just how south I am, let alone how south you are. You're another 500 k's further south than me.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. Is it 500 k's? It's not whatever.
Yeah, it's about 500-600. That's about it.
And and you cop it, and you go, Jesus, it's freezing. It's so cold.
Yeah.
But guess what? You live in Victoria, dude, and you live on the coast.
I was just talking to mum and dad up in Victoria just before, and against popular belief, we don't always get these freezing cold winds down here. I reckon Melbourne gets a bit more of it. Sometimes it sort of bypasses Melbourne and comes up through the big Great Australian Bight from Antarctica. But we're copying it now. We are the landmass in between that and the Arctic blast. So so we had a lot of snow today. There's more tomorrow. Pretty much from now Tuesday until another week of flat out snowing. Apparently,
here in Ocean Grove, just getting back to your comment, our prevailing wind is the southwesterly.
Yeah.
And Tassie's due south. So the southwesterly, you're right, it comes straight off Antarctica and the Great Australian Bight.
Yeah.
And we just get pummeled. And the wind, oh man, it just goes right through. It's so bitter at the moment. But
that's like even today, like I actually wore this today. I was out promoting the show, the Get Down South show, and had a couple of people give me a strange look because I had a beanie on. People were like, you look like the guy in the back.
That's right.
What kind of wanker wears his own jumper? But that's all I wore.
I do.
I know, we all do. But I was literally wearing this hoodie all day, and I didn't have a beanie on. I didn't have a jacket on. It wasn't freezing cold, but obviously it was because it was snowing. But yeah, it's interesting. I might maybe head out again tomorrow and see if I can go to a different spot.
Before we pick apart our backgrounds, I would like to thank everyone, as usual, for tuning in week to week. We're getting some really good feedback in the comments section below on YouTube or on what are we on? Apple
Podcast,
Spotify, Podbean, all the things. Wherever you find your favorite podcast is where you find us.
We're everywhere. But we are getting some great feedback, and we've jumped up in subscribers on the YouTube channel, which is great. We're almost pushing 300.
This is good, and we have
amazing.
We have surpassed the 3,000 download mark on on Apple Podcasts and wherever you get your podcasts. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. But point being, we enjoy your feedback. So thanks for building the community with us.
And we love the little feedback that we get on the. I actually got on there the other day and had a look at the podcast, and there's little comments down below. You can actually review us, which is a bit of a scary thought. Yeah. But we've had a few reviews, which is great.
There's a difference between being reviewed and being judged.
Yeah. There's some guy called Breno W who actually reviewed it, said it's refreshing. Yes. Gave it 5 stars. What a great new show. Not a great new photo show based I can't even talk, lots of lighthearted stuff, but more on a serious note. I don't know. That sounds familiar, that Breno W.
Yeah. I know. Must be obviously a legend.
Wow, clearly he's loves it.
Yeah, I think that was like after episode 1, and I thought, well, I'll just take the piss here and write my own review.
It was the 7th of July 2021. But strangely enough, there was a review before that on the 19th of June by Sack19.
I know who that is.
They're moving right along.
Yeah, that's this guy.
Anyway.
Yeah. So your background, to me, that looks like it was somewhere around the Lyle Highway.
Oh, you are on the mark, my friend.
Oh,
Yes,
well.
you know Tassie so well. Yeah, this is literally.
It says it in the notes.
Oh, does it? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It's literally on the side of the road. Up near
Awesome.
Dew Bridge, Lake Sinclair, you get kilometres of these snow gums, and once it's snowing and a bit wild, they really come on their own. So it's there's actually a big tree right in the middle of that shop. You can't really see it.
Yes.
On the big tree.
No,
but yeah,
I like it. Can I critique that image?
Please.
And tell you why I like it?
I guess so. Yes.
I love the trees, the way they break the vertical lines look really good. And you've got 3 clumped on one side, the big one in the middle, and then less clumped on the other side. So
yes. So it's almost like a 3-2-1 type of thing. Or?
Because we have determined quite recently in the podcast, if you've just joined us recently, we knew this already, but composition, we don't talk about it enough, and we think it's numero uno in landscape photography. It's the main thing that you should be focused on, so to speak. So it's really cool. I love the how the snow has gone on the foliage that's on the floor and made it all white and fluffy. Yeah,
it's one of those scenarios today where I could have stopped 1,000 times and just taken.
I can just see it.
You know what? Unreal. We had a chat in one of our podcasts a few weeks ago when you were saying you were driving along and there was people behind you, don't want to pull over.
Yeah.
Well, today the Lyle Highway is generally it's a main thoroughfare from Hobart across to the west coast, but on days like this, generally the people stay off it and it's not that busy. Every time I saw something, oh, that's great. I'll turn. Oh, there's a car behind me. Are you kidding me? And then the road was so snowy that I'm like, I don't know if I pull over there, I don't know if that's a ditch or a flat bit. Yeah. So I missed a million shots today because of inconsiderate people traveling on their own time.
Oh, those mongrels. How dare they use those highways that they paid for?
Maybe we need to put a sign on the back, photographer at work, back off or something like that.
Yeah. What do they used to say on the back of ice cream trucks? Come on, you grew up in the 80s.
Oh, this truck. This truck stops frequently or something. It's like the Garbo trucks.
We need one of them, a little flashing sign on the back of our
I've just come up with an idea. We should make a series of bumper stickers for photographers.
I love it. Okay, if you have an idea for a bumper sticker, leave it in the comments below and we'll make it.
You could say we could have like just simple things like I shot my wife.
Yeah.
There's gear in the trunk or something like that, or something weird. Anyway,
yes.
Your background.
Do you remember that
yes, I do.
slogan that Glenn Lavender came up with? Action Camera House.
Oh, I'm thinking of the joke that we shoot your wife, we burn the evidence, and then we frame.
Yeah, that's right. No, but he wanted to just say, because it was back when we used to copy memory cards to DVD or CD back in those days. And he just put up a sign that said, "Shoot your kids and burn the evidence." His sense of humor hasn't changed.
No, it's definitely in the gutter. Before we get onto your background, I had another message today from someone requesting that we give them a shout out. So you know who it is. It's the same person.
Anybody does that.
Well, there is one person in our community that just continuously asks for a shout out.
Okay.
So Chelsea, g'day at Chelmay Bell.
Chelsea, hello, Chelsea.
Yeah.
How are you?
I got a message today saying, "Are you recording your podcast tonight?" I said, "Well, there's a coincidence. I am." And she said, "I expect at least a couple of shout outs because last week there wasn't enough."
Okay, all right. Hi, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Far out. Talk about a attention seeker.
Talk about high maintenance. Jesus. Anyway, moving on. Your backyard looks.
There you go.
I like that. I love the black and white. Yeah, I can disappear.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So this was my old stomping ground of Swan Hill in northwestern Victoria. I grew up there, folks, and that's our magnificent bridge in Swan Hill, which they've been trying to replace now for about 50 years. But I'm so glad they haven't, because look at it.
What's the name? What's the name of that bridge?
The Swan Hill Bridge.
No, it's not. Is it really? It's such
okay, sorry. No, its name's Errol.
No,
I don't know.
There's got to be a name for the bridge.
It doesn't. As far as I'm aware, it doesn't have a bridge. Google might tell you otherwise.
I'm looking. Don't you worry.
You mean like the such and such memorial bridge, or the? Is that what you mean?
Well, it's actually got a name.
Oh, please.
Yeah, and this is your area. It's called the Swan Hill Bridge.
I knew it. It doesn't have a name. No, but I reckon
it does
what they'll
have a name.
do, they'll replace it and then name it after some politician.
Well, it was
good on
Surveyor Sir Thomas Mitchell named Swan Hill when he
right.
camped there on the banks of the Murray in 1836.
That's right. Or the Major Mitchell cockatoo, named after one and the same explorer.
You know what? We've hardly even spoken about photography. That's okay, because that's generally what we do on this podcast to start with. But I can still remember very well, I think it must be only one of the things I learned at school ever, all the Australian explorers. We must have done massive projects on Lawson, Blackland, Lawson and Wentworth. And
they discovered the Blue Mountains, right?
The Blue Mountains, I did, yeah. And, like you talk about Burke and Wills and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
Whenever I've been looking through maps and stuff like that, that must be named after. For some reason, I've retained that information.
Because we went to school in the 70s and 80s, kids, and that's when history started in 1778.
I never went to school in the 70s, and I barely went to school in the 80s. We
went to school in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, kids. Okay, when Australian history started in 1788.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah,
because that's it. Nothing happened in this country before then.
No, there's no one here. No.
Far out.
I'm reading a really good book at the moment. Truganini, the book about Truganini. It's an incredibly good read. For those who don't know, it's based on what was referred to as the last Tasmanian Aboriginal, Truganini, but it's an incredible story. I'm only about halfway through it, but some of the stuff they used to do back then and the knowledge they had and the connection to land they had, it was incredible. So I just feel terribly ripped off about what I was taught in Australian history. And I did Australian history in year 12. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So anyway, that's a story for another podcast. Getting back to my background.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. So I just wanted to get a shot of my bridge in Swan Hill, which I love. I've flown my drone under that bridge too, by the way. I don't know if it's legal, probably isn't.
Yeah.
And
I don't think Cass will watch.
So this was obviously I shot it in color, and I used a 1000 ND on it because I wanted to
smooth the water out.
Yeah, to smooth it out, and I think it enhanced the reflection quite a bit.
It does.
Sort of in the way.
And an interesting thing about that as well is because the Murray River is dirty; it's not a clear river.
Correct.
You wouldn't get that reflection in a short exposure. So what you've done there is pretty tricky. That you've actually enhanced the reflection.
That's right. So that was the Brown River, and it was in color originally, and the brown just looked. It just really took away from it. So I went, hey presto, black and white, and the contrast in the white pillars on the bridge and stuff, and the sun, and talk about breaking rules, shooting directly into the sun.
I can see the sun star there.
Yeah.
It is. I reckon it's snowing out here. I reckon it's about 5 seconds off snowing. It's snowing on the hills behind my house. I can tell you now.
Is that right?
It's bucketing down. I love it. I love the black and white, and there's something about that part of Australia that black and white works well with.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's like the big gums and the rocks and stuff you have up there, and sometimes the color can be a bit too bright, and you get those really big hot summer days where it's hard to shoot.
Yeah.
So black and white works. I like it.
No, that area.
So is that bridge still operational? Is it still?
So I last saw the middle of that bridge rise, I want to say in the early 2000s.
Right.
I don't know. I must have fluked a trip back up home once and it happened. I don't know whether it's been raised since then or whether it can be raised since then. All I know is it's now down to single lane.
Right.
And
is that a weight? That's probably a weight thing, isn't it?
A weight thing. And it takes a hell of a lot of traffic. Because you got Murray Downs is just across the bridge there, and you've also got Pickering Transport have their actual freight division right there over the bridge, so they send semis across this thing all the time. So they are, as I say, I'm not making it up when I say they've been arguing for 50 years about a new bridge.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever. It's a photography show. Let's get on with things.
Right. Good stuff. If you've fallen asleep, folks, our apologies. You can now wake up and we'll talk about photography.
Maybe. Let's start with our Nikon D5100 giveaway.
I was going to say, let's start with our backgrounds. I've got to say,
we did that already.
Let's not go there again.
No, that's right. We are clearly not recording this on a night that Cam's used to. Cam's off his game.
I'm way off my game. I don't know why. I just am.
He needs to get his head in the game here and focus, but that's all right. That's okay. That's right. We can't be on 100% of the time, Cam. I understand. I'm sure our listeners and viewers appreciate that.
Right.
We're giving away, as we mentioned last episode, a Nikon D5100. Here it is right here. Again, for those of you who didn't see, with a Sigma 10-20 f4 to 5.6 lens. It's a landscape kit, basically, because it shoots ultra wide angle.
That could have shot the shot behind you.
It did. Funny you should say that. Yes,
there you go.
It actually did.
Yeah.
Funny. I didn't even put two and two together there. But yes, this photo right behind me was shot with that very, very camera.
There you go.
So I can't guarantee that it's going to have an ND filter on it when you get it, but anyway.
So it takes black and white film then. That's fine. That's good.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, that's how old it is. No. It's
just remind me again. How do people go into the running to potentially get this camera, and when do they get told if they've won this camera?
Okay, so we want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's a subscribe button below this. If you're listening to us, search for us on YouTube, the Down South Photo Show. We come up there. Subscribing to our channel is completely free. We want you to hit the subscribe button, preferably hit the notification button as well, because that means you get notified when episodes come up. And also
ring our bell.
Ring our bell. You'll also be notified when and or if you've won the thing. And we need you to hit up our social media channels and follow at least our Facebook page or our Instagram account. And then, I know it's a lot, but hey, it's a good camera. We want you to tag someone who might like to win a camera.
You're making them work for it.
We are. That's not that hard, really. It'll take you about 18 seconds to do that.
It's not that hard. We have already had some people tagging on the Facebook page.
Good.
No second guess to who's part of that one. One of them's the #1 listener of the show, Mel and his friends.
He gets another shout out again.
Yeah, who? The Chelsea?
Oh, no. Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about Chelsea.
No, she doesn't want any more shout outs, she said. So we've had a few people already tag people in there. So people are getting the idea. All you got to do is just get on. We'll see the comments pop up. All you got to do is just make a comment, tag someone in there, say this could be pretty cool for them. And then somehow we're going to fluke our way out of picking a winner out of a hat.
Yep.
Maybe.
So I think what we'll do is we will just get all the entries. We'll make a list.
Yep.
We'll assign them a number from 1 to whatever it is,
yep.
and then we'll use a random number generator on Google, and we'll do that live.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
There you go. I just came up with that just then. That's
brilliant. And we'll both be there for the draw.
We will. It won't be just me.
Yep. No, it won't be. It won't be just you on your own.
So get on that. Now, we thought our main topic for discussion tonight would be, I thought it would be panoramas.
Yeah.
We want to talk a little bit about shooting panos, as they're called in the game.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you how I shoot them. Cam might do it different to me, but maybe not. I don't know.
I think there's different ways, but let's see how you go first.
Well, what do you like about panoramas, Cam?
Well, I must admit, I'm a bit of a sucker for panoramas, and I think first of all, what are we classifying as a panorama? Like, is a panorama just a big wide shot, like you've got behind, or is a panorama like a ratio size that we're thinking?
Ideally, we're talking about an image that is long and thin. So different to what you see behind us now, because these are like 16:9 or 3:2 ratios. More like a 3:1 ratio. In fact, 3:1 is probably my favorite way to shoot panos, a 3:1 ratio. I think that has the most appeal to it. I find a lot of people, when I'm talking about crop ratios, get this glazed look over their face. And
yes, they do.
And sometimes, though, if you're working in Lightroom or Photoshop and you're editing a panorama, just make it look how you want it to look. That's fine. But if you're battling with it, try and think of a 3:1 ratio. So 3 across by 1 high. Now, yes, you can shoot vertical panoramas as well, but we're not really going to talk too much about them. They're a little bit too niche. Yeah,
that's what I was sort of going with, is that do you stitch shots together or do you not stitch shots together? That's sort of the big question.
So there's lots of different ways that you can shoot panoramas.
Well, I do like panoramas, and the old Fuji GFX camera I had, you could shoot it was 65 by 20 something, which is a 3:1 ratio, and it would crop it in camera. And I used to love shooting in that ratio. It reminds me a lot of Ken Duncan and the work he does, and there's a few others out there do panorama work now. But I think panoramas are great. And I think they work in 2 different ways. I think you can do panoramas of a big, for example, a big beach scene or a big mountain scene or something like that. But I think you could also do it in something similar to behind me, just like more of an abstract sort of forest or, whatever it might be. And I actually went through a stage when I was doing some work for the Cradle Mountain Lodge where they wanted shots for their rooms. And if you go to all those classic hotels around all the tourism parts around Australia, they've all got them big panoramas in a room somewhere, either a canvas or whatever. But I went through a bit of a phase where I was just going around the forests and waterfalls up near Cradle Mountain and doing sort of 3:1 ratio, a bit more abstracty panoramas, more of just detail as such of a scene. So I love them. And I think they work for both big scenes. And I think you can also get quite creative with them. So, but I did it all as one shot. I never really stitched anything. And I guess that depends on how wide your lens is as well,
Yeah.
or does it?
Well, it does. Well, yeah, I think so. That the 10 mil that I used to shoot that image behind me clearly lends itself to more panoramic stuff.
Yeah.
Cam says as he changes backgrounds.
I was going to try and show you a panorama, but it's not going to work on here. I did a panorama this one.
Yeah. It's going to stretch it to the...
Yeah, don't worry about me. It's not the right day for me.
So this image behind me, you can see would actually crop beautifully down to a panorama if we just wanted to have the bridge and eliminate the reflection, the reflection in the foreground. Yeah. But I think in the case of that one, I wanted to keep the whole thing.
Yeah.
I love shooting panoramas in the stitching method.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, the reason I do that is because I print a lot of my photos. So when you stitch more images together or 3 images together, and I'll give you a bit of technique in a minute, you can get way more data in the image. So
yes,
unless you've got a Fuji GFX 100, did I get that number right?
Yeah, there's a 50 and a 100, but exactly what you're saying. Just a quick note on that. If I did a panorama stitch on that, it would be like they're 200 meg files per shot.
That's right.
It becomes a whoppingly big file.
Yeah. So the way that I've been shot, the way I've shot panoramas in the past is I'll take my trusty camera. I'll normally zoom it around the 50 mil mark if I can. I obviously wouldn't use this lens if I'm going to stitch a panorama. I would have even a prime 50 works really well for panos.
Yes,
and the best technique I've found is to turn your camera vertically and shoot roughly 7 or 8 images, making sure that your images overlap by at least 20 or 25%.
Yeah. And I think we also need to just put a bit of a disclaimer in there as well that there's a reason why we probably shoot, and you're exactly right, like you don't sort of shoot at the wide angle because you get the distortion of the wide angle lens and you start getting bending of horizons and mountains and things like that.
And then your stitching software will really battle to...
That's right. Yeah. So, and shooting a 50 mil or 35 mil or, even a bigger mil, like 80 or 90 mil, it just allows those lines to stay a bit straighter and everything lines up a lot easier for the software. And I think also, and I'm sure we're going to touch on it, is exposure is super, super duper important when you're doing stitching. And I'm sure you'll be able to get into that and explain why.
Yeah. So you would have noticed if you've got an SLR, go and get it, pause this, go get it. Right. Now you've got your camera. Right. You'll notice on this camera, too, this is the Nikon, it has a button on the back, which says AEL AFL, which is auto exposure lock and auto focus lock. Yes. So the problem you have if you are taking a panorama, particularly with a rising sun or a setting sun or any sun in it, like the image behind me, when you start taking photos across, the exposure is going to change because you're shooting more into the light or you're shooting away from the light. Yes. So ideally what you do is you line up your panorama, you focus on your first shot, and then you depress the AEL button.
Yes.
Now, call me a noob, I'm not sure on the newer full frame cameras and Sonys and stuff like that. I'm assuming they have an AEL button, but they might have a menu driven thing.
The brand new OM1
there you go.
Has an AEL button on the back here.
There you go. So it has an auto exposure lock. So it locks the exposure for the first frame, and then the exposure is identical across all 7, 8, 9, however many frames you want to take, provided you keep your thumb depressed on the button.
And the other thing about that as well, there's a reason why we do that is to keep that exposure even all the way through, because otherwise you'll see where the software stitches up the panorama, you'll see lines where it's like exposure slightly off between the 2 frames that it's stitching. And the other tip I was given years ago is always start from the brighter side of your shot. So if your sun's out to your left, and you're doing a panorama that way, start out towards where the sun is, lock the exposure and come around. Because if you go the other way, you're going to find that it's going to blow that brighter side right out if the exposure is
That's
set for a darker thing. So
Yes.
start from the brighter side and lock in that exposure and make sure it all stays the same. That'll iron out a lot of nightmares when you get into the editing suites.
Yeah, absolutely. Bearing in mind, of course, modern day cameras like your new artist formerly known as Olympus camera there, 20 megapixel sensor. So you probably, and if you're shooting a RAW file, you're getting very, very big file sizes. So computing power is really important when you want to shoot shoot panos in the vertical orientation. If you end up with 7 or 8 images, that's quite a big file.
That's right. You're timesing that file size by 7 or 8 times.
That's right. So, you might find that the stitching process in Photoshop might take your PC 10 minutes if it's not super duper quick.
And like I said, I did a few of those on the Fuji, the big files on the Fuji, and it was a gig file, if not more, which is great. And there is definitely advantages to doing panoramas because you can generally blow them up bigger. You can make panoramas quite big, either in canvas or print, because you've got 6 or 7 times the amount of pixel data in that shot than you normally would. So I find sometimes if there's I almost do it out of habit that if I see a really good scene that's like a big, beautiful, wide sort of panorama, I'll do a panorama session or just go, and then I'll still do my other shots I'm doing. And what I'll do, I'll share on the Facebook page after this episode goes out. I'll show you the shot I was going to show you here, which I just did the other day of Frenchman's Cap, and that's about a 7 or 8 stitch of this entire mountain range with this beautiful snow cap.
By the wonders of editing, it now is
we can show you
appearing in the screen right now. There it is. Look at that.
That's incredible. Did it fit on the screen?
Probably.
He doesn't know.
If I go like, wow, look, it looks amazing. Yeah, that's brilliant.
So my question to you is, is there a benefit for doing panoramas over just a normal ultra wide angle shot? Like, people listening might say, okay, well, why would I, if you wanted me to do a big panorama to get more detail in, why wouldn't I just use like a 16 mil or a fisheye lens to do the same thing?
For a couple of the reasons that we've already mentioned. Number one is image resolution. So if you do want to go really big with it, you're going to have way more image data, because don't forget, you don't have to use every image, the whole image. You can still work it, you can crop it and that sort of stuff. So number one for me is the fact that I can make it rather big. Number two is you can go wider than wide. So you're wider. So for example, on this bad boy, the widest angle is 16 millimeters in a 35 mil equivalent. Well, I can now mimic like a 5 millimeter camera. If I want to shoot a panorama, I can go way wider as well. And quite often that'll happen where, as you say, you're immersed in a rainforest, or that scene behind you, where you're just looking and you're taking it all in, and you really want to capture all of that. Then you can start shooting. I went through a phase of panoramas as well, where I really shot a lot of them, and enjoyed doing it, but it didn't, from a sales point of view, it didn't suit a lot of people's walls.
And with panorama, is there some given rule that you don't do any more than 90 degrees from start to finish? Because you could easily quite get carried away, couldn't you? You could do like a full circle panorama if you wanted to.
Which of course suck, because they're only this high, but they're that wide.
That's right.
So that's why I like, as I said off the top, if you stick with roughly a 3-to-1 ratio, that normally equates to, with a 25% overlap, 25% over, normally equates to 7 or 8 photos. Which I reckon would mimic probably a 10 mil lens. But you won't, if you shoot at 50 mil when you're shooting your panos, you won't get the distortion. So you won't get the barrel distortion or the pin cushioning that a 10 mil can give you, particularly at the edges. You'll get edge to edge absolute sharpness. One thing that's just sprung to mind as well is if you're shooting at a beach, it can be really tricky if you've got waves rolling in. If you've got clouds coming past, you got to be quick. You want to shoot them rapid fire. So takes a bit of practice.
Probably be a bit tricky for Mel as well to get that horizon straight if he's doing that.
There's no hiding from a crooked horizon when you're shooting a panorama.
There is not.
No, the software has a little bit of a freak out.
A couple of other things as well. Handheld or tripod?
Well, it depends on what you're shooting, of course. So if you're shooting at a scene that would normally need a tripod, then obviously you're going to need one. However, I think the point you're making is to keep the camera at one even plane, particularly when it comes to the horizon. Yes, tripods can be very useful for that. But what I find is the tripod is clumsy, and when you want to shoot fast.
Yes, it does. Or if you have the Olympus OM1 with 7.5 stops of image stabilizer, you
could shoot. Yeah. It really does sound like you're being paid by Olympus.
You would think for all the promotions I do for that beautiful company, you think I get some perks, but I don't get
that beautiful company.
Yeah, I don't get as many perks as some people, but that's okay. We're not going on. And then obviously the next step after Panorama is, you've got to edit that. So one thing that's really good these days is a lot of people used to think, oh my God, Photoshop, I've got to do panoramas and stitch them all in Photoshop. You can, but Lightroom also does image stitching at a touch of a button now, and it's really, really easy, really, really good. So if you want to learn more about how to get it into Lightroom and stitch it, there's lots of YouTube videos on how to do that. It's very simple. You click a button. It asks you if you want to, what's to say if you want to do cylinder, you don't want to do cylinder. What's the other one? I can't think now.
Yeah, I can't remember either. It's probably just like an auto thing.
I've got Lightroom open here.
And Photoshop's the same. You just go File, Photo Merge, import your files, and same deal.
It's photo. So if you're in Lightroom, so here we go. I'll just give a quick lesson here. If you're in Lightroom, you might have your 6 or 7 shots lined up there. You right click on all those images. You go into Photo Merge, pick Panorama, and then that picks up all those 3 images. And then it asks you there's 3 different types of projection you can do. There's spherical, there's a cylindrical, and there's perspective. I always pick spherical. I think that's right. And then what it does, it puts them all together, and it's very, very straightforward, very easy. And it looks cool. And then it spits out a file at the bottom.
Yeah. And the cool thing about doing it in Photoshop is it actually keeps the layers. So if there are some tweaks on horizons and stuff that you need to make, you can actually do layer adjustments. So you might have 7 images, and you go, oh, hang on, image 5, that horizon hasn't quite lined up. You can isolate layer 5 or image 5, do any warping or anything you need to do just to get that horizon a little better.
Yeah.
And away you go. One cool fun fact about which we talk about a lot, is the DJI Mavic drones, is they have a built-in panoramic function.
They
which
do.
Is
it works
nuts. Cool. It is so good.
And the other thing I've got a little DJI Pocket.
Cool.
Like it is a little cool. It's got a little gimbal on it and everything like that. It's really, really cool. And they do the same thing. You set it on a tripod and it just goes doot, 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 and just does a panorama. At the press of a button. So technology is definitely there. To do these kind of things. And I think the main thing as well, if you're going to do panoramas, I think you'd have to have a mindset that you're going to print them. I think if you're going to do panoramas and just put them online, it won't work on Instagram, for example. It'll just be this little tiny strip of image. Photoshop will probably crop the hell out of it or do something. So, not Photoshop, Facebook, sorry. Did I say Facebook or Photoshop?
You said Photoshop.
I did. Facebook will crop the hell out of it. So I think if you're looking, panoramas are great to play with. It's a bit like all the other things that you can do with your photography, like light painting or long exposure, whatever. Every sort of thing that we do is great, but if with panoramas, you just don't get the full benefit if you're just going to put them online. You need to put them on a wall.
No, that's right. And like most of the topics we talk about on the Down South Photo Show, it's another tool in your arsenal. It's another thing you can go to and use, like when you've got photographer's block, which we all get. We all suffer from it. And it's like, I can't, how do I get this composition right? Start looking wider and go, well, hang on a minute. That's pretty spectacular, that. And then go to a panoramic sort of.
That mountain's really cool there and that lake's there, but I just can't do one shot.
Oh, I can.
I'll stitch them all up.
Hang on, I'll look up episode 42 of the Down South Photo Show and they'll tell me how to do it.
The Darren Mullane episode. I've got a funny story about photo stitching.
Yes.
I went to Yosemite National. I don't know if I've probably told this on the podcast before.
Yes.
I have.
No, I don't know about this story, but you have told us that you went to Yosemite.
Yeah, I went to Yosemite and there was a guy taking photos who comp stomped me and put his tripod across the front of me. I think I might have told it on one of the really early.
That one.
Yes. Well, he was doing panorama photo stitching. He went through the whole scene, but he went grid like. He went up, down, across, up, down. He would have had 1,000 photos of this one scene. So picture the shot behind Brendan and I, and it was almost like he was creating his own little pixel boxes of the whole thing of each frame. And then he just do it again, and then he just did it again, and all he went. And then he would have gone home and he would have had a gazillion size gig file to play with. But his throwaway comment to me when I said, "Oh, you're doing some photo stitching and stuff like that," and his throwaway comment to me, which has stuck to me for 8 or 9 years, is, oh, that's how everyone shoots these days. There's no way but to do that. And I went, okay, no worries. And he took his camouflage jacket and his camouflage pants and his camouflage lens. Now, this is not a dig. This is not a dig at anyone in particular.
I sense a dig is coming.
But he was a Canon user, so I should say no more.
Oh dear.
Anyway, but give Panoramas a go. Practice. Sometimes it does take a few turns to get it right, and then you'll start seeing what works and what focal length works.
And a pro tip, folks: if you go out with the intention of shooting panoramas, you normally end up with 7 times as many photos as you intended to, because you're taking all these images.
We also didn't mention one other thing, which is very, very important with doing panoramas, and it's this thing.
Yes.
So in between, you just made a good point there that when you get home, you got your whole grid of photos there, and you've got 700 images of 100 different scenes.
Yes.
And you don't know where the panorama starts and stops.
Yes, this is exactly the point I was about to make.
Yeah, the easiest
way. That's okay. You steal my thunder. Go on.
Oh, you go. Well, the easiest way, I don't do it with the lens cap. The easiest way is to do a black frame in between each one. So you know that, okay, that's the end of that panorama. And the other one is just put your hand in front or something like that.
That's the way I do it. So what I do is I line up my panorama, I line up the first shot, and then I put my finger pointing like that right in front of the camera and take a photo. And then I drop my finger. And then I know when I see a finger, the next frame is the first frame. And I know that it goes that way too, because I'm pointing in the direction, because sometimes I've shot it right to left. So then I point that way, and then you know that which way to go. So it's easier to load up your images in Photoshop.
You're a genius.
And then when you shoot the last one, you do the stop sign.
Right.
That's what I do.
You could just get little signs to pop up in front of your lens, like start, stop. You could do all those kind of things.
We could make them instead of bumper stickers.
We could do like down south logo, start and stop thing.
Good one.
I'll give you an update as well on our merchandise sales.
On our merch, how well is it going?
It's going awesome. We have sold absolutely none. Actually, no, we've sold. Well, we didn't sell. We gave one away, so we didn't sell it
to Mel.
Yeah, we did give it to Mel. I've actually got to still send. I'm going to send one to our mate in America, Ben Horn. I've got to get onto that.
Yes.
I wonder if he'd wear it. He's actually just put out some new videos. This last week, he went to
friend of the podcast, Ben Horn.
Yes, our number one friend. Now, where did he go? He went to Utah, I think it was.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, he's done some new videos that have come out. He's got, he does his series of 6 or 7. Yeah, so he's in Utah. Episode 1 is out, so go check it out. Give him some down south photo show love.
Yep, absolutely.
And look at it. Yeah.
Now we are that time of the show, folks. Everyone's favorite time of the show, Deer Camp.
Apart from mine.
It is time for Deer Camp, episode 42, Deer Camp. This comes from I don't have a name here, Cameron.
Kerry.
Thank you, Kerry.
This one came in today. Kerry's from Whittlesea in Victoria. Yeah, almost my backyard.
A far northern suburb of Melbourne.
It is near my old growing up area, which is Greensborough.
Your old stomping ground.
It is.
So we've got my stomping ground in the background. Now we're talking about yours. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Kerry says, Dear Camp, as we all know, presumptuous, editing is an essential part of the whole photo processing workflow. I've just started my own photography business. Give it up for Kerry. Give it up for Kerry. We promote starting your own photography business, and thought it was time to update my monitor. Naturally, I thought I'd ask your expert opinion on what type of monitors that you guys use. I have narrowed it down to the following: an Asus ProArt PA279CV. That means nothing to me, but it's an Asus ProArt.
I'll rephrase that. It's an Asus.
Asus. I thought it was Asus.
I think it's Asus.
Whatever. You say potato, I say potato.
Tomato. Yep.
Or a BenQ SW271C. What do you reckon? What are your initial thoughts on that camera?
Well, firstly, congratulations to Kerry opening her new
Absolutely.
Called Fur Baby Studios is the name of her business.
We're talking pet photography.
It is pet photography at Fur Baby
Jealous.
Studios. Yeah,
Something I want to do. I want to do everything in photography, but I'd love to do pet.
Yeah.
I love dogs. I'd love to be a dog photographer one day.
Yeah,
That's a time for a whole other Brendan.
She's doing that. Landscape dog photography. There you go. You could do that. But Fur Baby Studios in Whittlesea. So congratulations on that. Yeah, awesome question, because it is a pivotal part of your business is what equipment you use, whether or not your camera or your tripods or whatever it might be, and software and hardware for your computer is also important. I did a fair bit of research on this going back about 6 months, 12 months ago about what I wanted to use. So I use an iMac, 27-inch iMac, and I used to have an iMac second screen, which didn't end up going well, ended up breaking and flickering. It was going to cost more to fix than just to put it downstairs for the kids to play with. So I actually went out and started researching a 27-inch monitor for my editing and things like that. And I actually came up with the BenQ, the one that she's mentioned in the questionnaire. I've actually got that model, the SW271C. And look, it's great. I don't think it's as nice as my iMac monitor that I have in front of me, but I've calibrated them both off the same calibration. So they both look the same. They all print the same when I want to do printing. But what I thought I was going to use my monitor for editing, it's actually ended up being more of my second screen for everything else, and I still do my editing on the iMac monitor. But they're a beautiful screen. They are really nice. They've got like the big shade around them and stuff like that, and they've got adjustable brightness and different profiles you can put in there. But in regards to what was available on the market, I think the BenQ is probably the best value for market money that I found. You've also got the ESO screens, I think they're called.
Yeah, so ESO monitors are the industry standard, really.
Yeah.
However, they kick off at like $5,000. So
yeah, they're not cheap.
No, they're not. But I mean, it depends on how much time, Kerry, you think you're going to be spending in front of your monitor, how much editing you think you're going to be doing. Yeah. There's a couple of reasons why the ESOs are so good. One is they tend to maintain their calibration for longer. Yep. So monitors age by the second, literally. So when a monitor is turned on, it is changing all the time. So it's normally it's losing color, or it's going to be different every time you turn it on. That can be down to lots of different things, not least of which is literally air temperature. If it's a warmer day, your monitor looks different to a colder day, blah, blah, blah. ESO monitors generally iron that out and give you a very level playing field across the board, and that's what you're paying for most of the time. I don't use expensive monitors. In fact, the monitor I'm looking at right now is a Philips monitor that I bought at Officeworks for about $300, but I can calibrate it. And if you've got a cheaper monitor, buy a calibration tool as well. You can get a Spider calibrator for about $300 or $400.
That's what I use, one of those. Yeah,
there you go. And use that regularly, and you should be okay. I mean, you're going to be within a 4 or 5% tolerance, for your printing lab or your printer or whatever you're choosing to do with your images. Don't get too hung up on it. Save for the fact that if you think you're going to be using your monitor a lot, if you're going to be looking at your screen a lot, invest in a good screen. And again, for color reasons, but more importantly, for the damage that cheap monitors can do to your eyes. Expensive monitors have screens on them that protect your vision, protect you from, they're better for you. I can't tell you exactly why, but I know that they've got screens and stuff that are better for. I'm assuming it's got something to do with radiation or something like that. But I'm getting outside my lane. I don't know exactly why, but I do know that these ESO monitors are better if you are looking at a monitor 24/7.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I had this monitor in mind, the BenQ monitor in mind, as being my primary editing suite monitor, I guess. And I do put some things on there. If I have two screens going, I have Photoshop and Lightroom, and the fact that I got them both calibrated means that you can switch between screens and there's no difference. I calibrate my screen probably every 3 or 4 months just to give it a touch up. But I found the one thing I find about the BenQ screen, it does throw off a lot of heat. I've noticed, but so in the warmer months, if you can call them down here in Tassie, but you can actually feel the heat versus the iMac one that I'm looking at here. So
that's interesting. Yeah, right.
And I reckon it's probably a 4 or 5 degree difference in temperature what comes off this one. But they're a beautiful monitor. They're really well valued. I haven't had any problems with it. I've even hooked my Xbox up to it every now and then to play some games and things like that when I got bored.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're good, great monitor, and I would have no problem recommending the BenQ one. But you're probably going to spend, maybe another $1,000 more on the other monitors we're talking about. But yeah, you can't go wrong with it. And then again, if you've got it set up and you've got it calibrated, then that's the monitor you're using. Then I think you do well. But yeah, it's an interesting question. But I think the monitor, to me, it's more about the calibration. Really, the monitors are good. And to be honest, I went and had a look at the Ezio ones as well as these ones, sort of almost side by side, and you can tell a little bit of a difference. But to me, it wasn't worth the price difference.
Yeah.
And as long as you're editing in the right profile on a calibrated monitor, sending it to the right printer like yourself, or doing it yourself at home.
Yep, I agree. So I think the hot take from that is, Kerry, don't blow all your coin on an EZO or a top of the line
you
monitor.
should buy some merchandise instead.
That's right. Yeah. Get something a wee bit more affordable, and then once your business is absolutely humming along and you find yourself editing into the night, then maybe look at investing a bit more in a more expensive monitor. Cam's fishing around for a print.
I am, because we made a deal last week that anyone who does a Dear Cam gets an 8x12 print.
Kerry, look at you go. You've got an 8x12 print.
Yeah, but I've got a couple here I've got to chop up. I don't know if you can see them. Probably not. I can't do this anymore.
No, I can see the background in that. But
why can't why
hold it in front of yourself?
Why is my brain not functioning today?
I don't know.
I've been in the cold too much today.
Cameron's brain has the dumb.
But yes, Kerry, I'll chase you down for your details. I've got your mobile and stuff there. But great question, and
love it.
Good luck with the business.
Yeah, for sure. If you have a Dear Cam question, by all means, send it to us on our social media channels, or leave a comment below if you are watching on YouTube. We will endeavour to answer your question as quickly as we can.
Do what Kerry did and send us an email.
There you go. Do what Kerry did and send us an email. What's our email address?
Just use cam@tasphoto.com.au.
Right.
Isn't that probably link below?
It is linked below in the description box.
As of episode 42.
No. It's there. It's been there. Okay. Been there from the start. So, Cam, what you've got quite the adventure coming up.
Yes, I do. If it all goes smoothly,
it will.
It will. Yeah. No, I've got the Flinders, my first ever Flinders Ranges photography trip coming up. So Today's Tuesday. I get on the boat from this little island to the big island on Friday, and then we head out on Sunday out to Adelaide, and then pick up all our guests next Monday. And away we go. We go up there for 5 days, 5 nights, 6 days. A couple of aerial flights. We'll explore the region. We've got a couple of forward drives to play around with. We've got 6 people coming, so it's nice and easy. We've got 2 cars. I got my cousin Daniel, who's a legend of a guy, coming along to help me do the second driving.
Good work, Dan.
He may steal the show. If you thought I was a bit of a character, wait until they meet him. So yeah, we've got 2 cars, 3 in each car. We'll swap that around. We'll have plenty of time, lots of laughs. We'll learn a heap of stuff. Hopefully get a cracking set of photos from the time we're up there. And yeah, I'll be back. I'll come in to see you before I come home, because I'm going to come and pick up some canvases, which will be done by then, hopefully.
Yeah, send me a reminder.
We might come back, because we've got to come back from Adelaide, so we might just come back by Geelongish.
Yes.
Maybe catch up for an ale or 2 beforehand.
That sounds like a very good idea.
Yeah.
That'll be in a couple of weeks when you're coming back my way.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
Right. I better get my act together and get your canvases done then.
Yeah, you better. And that's pretty much it for me. I might head out tomorrow again and see if I can get some snow. Tomorrow, Chelsea. Have we mentioned Chelsea?
Who's Chelsea?
You know, that girl that keeps bothering us about doing shout outs.
Chelsea. Chelsea, yes.
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hi,
Chelsea.
She's at it again.
Nice.
Chelsea's got a little bit of a marketing background. Well, she likes to think she does. I think I'm a better marketer than her, to be honest. But she is doing some work.
she only did 4 years of uni in it. Don't worry.
That's all right. That's a whole other episode about.
Follow your dreams, Chelsea.
Yeah, follow your dreams, Chelsea. Yeah, that's actually good advice. Follow your dreams, Chelsea.
Follow your dreams, Chelsea.
So she's got a bit of a marketing background, and down here we have the Dark Mofo Winter Festival that's cranking up, and Chelsea's been employed by one of the tourism operators, or tourism departments down here, so to speak, to do what they call an Insta meet. So for those who don't know what an Insta meet is, it's when they get a whole heap of people that are generally on Instagram or social media. They'll get everyone together and they give them sort of backstage or behind the scenes access to different events before the public do. So tomorrow night, we're going into the Dark Mofo City region where all the businesses have turned on their lights red, and there's all these art exhibitions and things like that. And installations, we're going to walk around town, probably in the rain or the snow, inside, in and out. And we take some photos of all these installations. And then what we do is we just share them online and tag a few people and get some interest into there. But Dark Mofo Winter, if you haven't been to Tassie in winter, a lot of people sort of go, that's the stupidest idea I can think of. The Dark Mofo Festival, which runs for about 2 or 3 weeks, I think, it brings Hobart to life. You can go down to Salamanca, they have big bonfires going, they have big, it's almost like medieval. They have big long tables where everyone just sits and eats, and it's a very, very, very cool festival. So that's tomorrow. And then I've got another session with a young mate, Oscar. We're doing another session. This session, we're going to go to a waterfall and see if we can't fall in.
Very good. You'll get some waterfall photos.
I think there's going to be plenty of water coming down those falls. And what about your good self? How's our staff member going?
Good. We have a new staff member. She's going very well. Thank you very much. And things are progressing well. But forget that. I want to put it on record on episode number 42 that in April next year, I will be joining you in Tasmania.
Well, I'll believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it.
Now, this will really, let's see just how far people listen to our episodes, because I know we don't get full listenership right to the end. We need to come up with a name for these people that listen right to the end. We'll work something out. Cam put out the call to a group of friends on Facebook, or put out on Facebook that he's keen to do the overland track, possibly his swan song last time. Put out the call to say who'd like to come and do it. Yep. And I have decided to join him and his friends on the overland track.
God help the overland track.
In mid-April.
Mid-April, yeah.
Mid-April, yeah. So, and look, for me, it's been a bucket list item to do the overland for years. And for one reason or another, life gets in the way. Haven't been able to do it. So the only way you're ever going to do something like this is to just say you're going to bloody do it, and then clear the decks and make it happen. So that's what we're doing. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not going there to photograph the joint per se. Obviously, I'll take a camera with me. It's more for me the experience of actually walking the overland track. So I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, mate. You when you said you were coming along, I went, yes, this is going to be a nightmare.
That's right. Really, this guy. But you're right. Like I've been walking that track. I did the track when I was early 20s. I think I've been doing it for 20 years, and it's getting to the point where I've sort of find that my normal customer base is moving away from doing those long sort of hikes and stuff like that. So each trip we do fill them up, but we seem to get a bit of a mix of maybe non-photographers, but people want to do walks. So I'm looking at sort of maybe not winding it down completely, but maybe just backing myself out of it as such, and having others do it for me, and still run the business and do the logistics and stuff like that. But I thought I'll put it out there. Like I always had people like yourself and other mates like, oh, if I want to do this trip, I want to do it. So I thought, let's just put it out there. Let's just see who's keen. We've got enough people now. It's definitely happening. We've got enough people I've actually booked in the spot on the track, so it's happening. So we're going to do 6 days, 65 Ks. You will take photos. You will not be able to help yourself. Of course.
It is an incredible walk. There's an amazing lot of history along the track. There's lots of stories, and it's just a great trip. And to be honest, one of the best trips I've ever done on the track out of the 20 something times I've done it was with another group of mates who did it as a work function. They did it as a bonding session for a small business. Team building. And we had a ball. So it'll be good fun, and I look forward to seeing you there in April.
Well, let's not preempt anything because I'll probably ruin it all for you. But
you just get into training. Oh, you look pretty trim and short these days.
I'm back on the bike, getting back into the fitness. Need to. It's winter. I've got my winter coat on, and it's time to start. And this is another reason I want to do the overland, is because it gives me something to aim at for my fitness as well. I will be doing it when I am 50 years old. So,
well, you would not be anywhere near the youngest person I've had on the track. No,
of course,
or the oldest.
So, no. Thoroughly looking forward to it. This has been episode 42 of the Down South Photo Show. We may or may not have an episode for you next week, given that Cam is away.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's all right. We'll talk off air about that. I've got a
suggestion.
suggestion.
What? I've got a really good idea.
Okay, go.
I'm putting it out there.
We'll talk on air.
Yeah, we're going to talk on air. What about if we get Chelsea to co-host?
Who?
Yeah. Well, you never know. She's an Olympus user.
I'm not. Did I say no?
No, and
no.
If maybe we can put it to a vote on there. If you go look at her Instagram account, for example, which is at Chel May Bell, go check it out. See what her work. Okay. She's got some beautiful work. Okay. She knows her way around landscape photography. If you'd like to see Chelsea co-host with Brendan, I would. I'm putting vote number one.
Sure, she's way better looking than you.
Yeah, that would be hard. So, yeah, if you'd like to see Chelsea co-host for next week, chuck a comment in. Nice. Except you, Chelsea, you can't put a comment in.
No, don't put a comment in, Chelsea. Thanks for joining us on episode 42. As I say, we will see you soon for episode 43. Bye.
Hooroo.
Hooroo.